Hello, everyone. After the Memorial Day racing spectaculars at Indianapolis and Charlotte, the IndyCar and Grand National Stock Car stars have buckled down for their summer-long, every Sunday battle for series championships. We'll have details today, along with two big cancellations in Grand Prix racing and the fastest quarter-mile run in drag racing history.
I'm Jim Roller. Our top story is this afternoon's International Race of Champions, Series Round 2 at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. By virtue of his last-place finish at the series opener in Daytona, Mario Andretti started on the pole. He used that edge to run away and hide while other drivers were taking in the Mid-Ohio sights. Cale Yarborough paid this visit to the sand, while Terry Labonte checked out the beautifully manicured Mid-Ohio grass. On lap 15, local favorite Bobby Rahal moved to second when Tom Gloy pitted for fresh tires. Then Rahal caught Andretti, and the battle was on. After repeated attempts to pass Andretti, Rahal made this inside move and sends the leader spinning. Mario got back on track in third place behind Rahal and John Watson, and that's the way they finished, as the top five was dominated by veteran road racers. Rahal's win leaves him 1 point behind Darrell Waltrip in the IROC Series, as those stars move to Talladega July 27th for IROC Round 3. Also today at Mid-Ohio, the IMSA Camel GT regulars qualified for tomorrow's 500-kilometer enduro. Track records fell in all classes, led by the Porsche of Bob Wallach, David Hobbs, and Bruce Levin. Defending race winners Al Holbert and Derek Bell will start outside the front row. Sam Ard, the defending NASCAR late model sportsman champion, yesterday announced his retirement from racing. Ard has not driven since he was severely injured late last season. He'll become crew chief for sportsman regular Charlie Luck. In Pocono, Pennsylvania, Bill Elliott is back in stride after poor performances in North Carolina and California. New small carburetor and all, Elliott broke the Pocono track record over 152 miles per hour to nose out Harry Gant and Darrell Waltrip for the pole position.
Last Sunday, the Winston Cup Stockers made the first of their two-a-year road course appearances. At Riverside, California, series leader Terry Labonte got the drop on pole sitter Darrell Waltrip to lead early in the Budweiser 400. Former winner Tim Richmond, who's always strong here, wrestled the top spot away briefly but couldn't hang on. Waltrip, victorious the week before in the World 600, took the lead from Richmond and then swapped it with number 9 Bill Elliott, winner of 5 of 12 races this year. Waltrip faded to 8th. Elliott, who scored his first career win on this track 2 years ago, surrendered the lead on a pit stop and eventually finished 6th. Labonte, whose season-long consistency has kept him in the point lead, looked like a winner all day. But number 33, Harry Gant, who lost last year's championship to Labonte right here at Riverside, showed Terry some stuff en route to his 4th straight runner-up finish. Labonte's final challenger, number 22, Bobby Allison, long overdue for a win, and especially here at Riverside. But with 15 laps to go, Terry whipped past Bobby at turn 9 and began to pull away to a 5-second margin of victory and his 8th top 10 finish of the year. Allison settled for 3rd when Gant got by him as well. Ricky Rudd and Kyle Petty rounded out the top 5. That timely win pads Labonte's point lead over Elliott, who's been making a real move in the Winston Cup standings. And just up the way from Riverside, the SCCA's Bendix Brakes Trans Am road racers visited Sears Point Raceway near Sonoma, California. Bob Varsha reports.
When Paul Miller smashed the track record by 4 seconds in qualifying at Sears Point, it appeared that Miller's Porsche Turbo number 36 might prevent the second stop on the SCCA Trans Am series from becoming another parade of Mercury Capris. But when the green flag sent the field of 32 on its way, Willie T. Ribbs beat Miller to turn 1, and that decided the race. Miller spun on lap 10, leaving the battle to the Roush Motorcraft Capris numbers 3 and 4 of Ribbs and teammate Wally Dallenbach Jr. But not even a bunched restart after the day's only caution flag could give Dallenbach the jump he needed to prevent Ribbs from leading the entire 100 miles. Willie T. performed a convincing encore to his season-opening win at Firebird Raceway back in April. Dallenbach and defending Trans Am champ Tom Gloy duplicated their 2nd and 3rd place finishes as well as the Capri Parade marched to 5 of the top 10 places. For MotorWeek Illustrated, this is Bob Varsha reporting.
And last weekend also marked the season opener for what was once the SCCA's premier road racing series, the Can-Am. The most significant story is that this race happened at all. Most observers predicted the Can-Am would fold after its financial backer Don Walker declared bankruptcy this spring. But 18 cars showed up at Canada's Mosport Circuit Sunday. They did their best to put on a show, but one reporter called the race, quote, so dreadful it wasn't worth the write-up. Journeyman driver Horst Kroll would disagree. He took his first victory in 8 years of trying by about 4 miles, as only 7 cars finished. Series supporters predict there will be at least 3 more Can-Ams this year.
The Belgian Grand Prix has been postponed, and the 1985 New York Grand Prix won't happen. Those are the top stories as we turn to international road racing on this edition of the Beatrice Formula One Report. For the third straight year, the New York Grand Prix has been canceled, though a tentative agreement with the city may open the door for 1986. Organizers this week agreed to pay $11 million over 10 years for improvements to the park where the racetrack will be built. That race will be replaced by the European Grand Prix to be run at Brands Hatch, England, September 22nd. In a rare move this week, organizers announced the purse for that race at over $1 million. Formula One organizers are also looking for an open weekend to replace last weekend's postponed Belgian Grand Prix. The newly paved Spa-Francorchamps circuit fell apart during qualifying. Track officials and race promoter Bernie Ecclestone had to call off the event after driver protest. It's the first time that that's happened in modern Formula One history. The Formula One Stars race in Detroit, June 23rd. Beatrice and MotorWeek will bring you all the pre-race news in a special edition, live from the Detroit Grand Prix 2 weeks from today.
Well, there's a secret racing engine stalking the streets of America, and Chris Economaki has that story when MotorWeek continues. Now with IndyCar news.
Well, Dave, just a week after Danny Sullivan won the Indy 500, the CART PPG IndyCar stars made their traditional trip to Milwaukee.
The Miller American 200 picked up where the Indy 500 left off. Mario Andretti versus Danny Sullivan. This time Andretti started on the pole with Sullivan right alongside. But once the green flag dropped, it was clear the tables were turned this week. Andretti ran off and there was little Sullivan or anyone else could do. Besides Andretti, the fastest car on the track belonged to Pancho Carter, powered by a Cosworth V8 rather than a Buick V6 this week. But Carter's bid was undone in the pits, where nothing went right for him all day. It was also a lousy day for Johnny Rutherford, a former Milwaukee winner, and rookie Ed Pym. Neither one was injured. The race started poorly for Tom Sneva, who qualified 19th, but Sneva, who is the Milwaukee Mile Master, was soon up to second. But that was it. Nobody could touch Andretti. You'd never know it had been 18 years since his last Milwaukee victory. Leading all but 4 of the 200 laps around the mile, Andretti took the checkered flag comfortably ahead of Sneva. Sullivan hung on to 4th when Carter made a last lap pit stop. Andretti, with 2 firsts and a second in 1985, easily leads the IndyCar point standings.
Well, Mario wasn't the only Andretti to win at Milwaukee. His youngest son, Jeff, won Sunday's Super V prelim by 8 seconds over Ted Prappis. That's Jeff's first series victory.
Now Chris Economaki has a scoop this week about a hot new IndyCar engine that's prowling the streets of America.
General Motors may be the biggest car company in American racing. Take their Chevrolet division, for example. Its Corvettes are winning left and right in showroom stock. Camaros dominate short-track late-model stock car racing, and its super slick Monte Carlo SS models are big winners in NASCAR. Buick, for example, winning on the banks with its Regals. Its Somersets do well on the pretzel-shaped road courses of IMSA, and of course its V6 Buick got a lot of headlines with high qualifying speeds in Indianapolis. Pontiac has a winner in its Fiero already. Its Grand Prix have been driven by Tim Richmond and Richard Petty to wins in NASCAR, and now Pontiac is trying to make its Grand Am a winner as well. Oldsmobile, however, is the only one with a low profile. Its racing endeavors with Dave Marcus, A.J. Foyt, and Buddy Baker of late have not been too productive. But Oldsmobile may be the nameplate of the future when it comes to General Motors. National Speed Sport News has learned that Oldsmobile has an ultra-high performance 4-cylinder engine of 2.8 liters displacement on secret test on the American road today. Delivering 250 horsepower from its 151 cubic inches displacement, this engine, with its 4-valve, twin overhead camshaft cylinder head, is the closest thing to an all-out IndyCar engine in an American passenger car since the days of the Duesenberg. Bore it out to the Indy displacement of 162 cubic inches, that's only 11 inches, and add a turbocharger, and you may well have an engine that could rival the special racing engine that Chevy is doing for Roger Penske. Remember, it was the Oldsmobile that paced this year's Indianapolis 500. It may well race in next year's.
Thank you, Chris. Elsewhere, Steve Kinzer may have been handed his 6th World of Outlaw Sprint Car crown on a silver platter. Here are the standings after a 3-race stand in New York and going into a weekend off. But the big story is former champ Sammy Swindell. Sammy didn't go to New York, fell out of the top 5. He and car owner Raymond Beadle say they're unhappy with World of Outlaw officiating, and they won't support the series the rest of the year. Sammy may run selected events, but he won't challenge Kinzer for the championship, and it doesn't appear anyone else will either. We'll meet the prettiest newcomer in stock car racing when MotorWeek continues. The regional stock car news.
In the NASCAR North Series, the point race is the story. The top 3 in a tight knot after last weekend's racing, and the on-track action is even tighter. Our Ken Squire reports.
Sunday at Spencer Speedway, Rochester, New York, the NASCAR North Coors Stars raced 100 caution-free laps and still had 15 cars on the lead lap at the end. The race featured the charge from 18th starting spot for number 48, Robbie Crouch. He'd won the night before at Holland Speedway near Buffalo and was determined to make it 2 in a row and take the Coors Series point lead. Late in the race, Crouch moved up to challenge Jamie Obey for the lead, but Crouch tangled with number 11, Claude Leclerc, and was lucky to keep going. Meanwhile, Obey was passed for the lead by veteran Hector Leclerc, who held on by a car length for his first series victory in 3 years. Crouch, a close third. The win was quite a turnaround for Hector Leclerc, who was too slow to even make the field at Holland Speedway Saturday night.
The competition is very, very keen, Ken. This year is just unbelievable. If you make a mistake, it's very possible that you will not qualify.
For MotorWeek Illustrated, I'm Ken Squire.
The ARCA stock cars went super speedway racing Sunday. Richie Panch reports.
A couple of the Grand National drivers didn't go to Riverside, and one of them ended up here on the pole in the inaugural Georgia 500K at Atlanta International Raceway. Pole sitter Mike Alexander in car number 84 and fellow NASCAR regular Trevor Boyce in number 8 set the pace in this caution-filled race. Blown engines, spins, and crashes brought out 8 cautions, slowing 73 of the race's 204 laps. The late stages looked like it would be a Boyce and Alexander battle to the end, but in the final 8 laps, Boyce blew an engine and Alexander pitted under yellow, leaving the persistent number 23, Davey Allison, in the driver's seat.
I saw the caution lights on board. I just kept the hammer down to catch up. I caught up, and I looked down on pit road, and they're hollering, the leader's on pit road, the leader's on pit road, and I knew that we only had 2 laps to go, and when we got the restart, it was going to be the white and the checker, and I knew there wasn't no way he was going to catch me.
Allison's victory moves him within 45 points of 4th place finisher and ARCA points leader Lee Raymond. Davey Allison's hot victory ended with a cool ride home in his new boat. From the Atlanta International Raceway, this is Richie Panch reporting for MotorWeek Illustrated.
That race was marred by the death of a rookie ARCA driver. 35-year-old Stuart Linden of New Zealand died when his car went out of control and slammed into a dirt embankment inside Turn 2. Atlanta International Raceway officials will soon build a new concrete wall to replace that embankment, which also claimed the life of Winston Cup rookie Terry Schoonover in a crash last fall.
On a brighter note, Sunday's ARCA race marked the stock car debut of Barbara Young, who is following the example set by the most famous woman racer of them all.
The first woman I ever saw race was Shirley Muldowney at Fremont Raceway in 1972 when she was Cha-Cha Muldowney and she was running funny cars against Don the Snake Prudhomme. And that made such an impression on me. The crowd acceptance of her, and there was some negativity, but most people were really for it. And I realized then, and I couldn't have been more than, 14, that you know, it's okay for a woman to race. And then, later on in life, I became a drag racer myself, and so Shirley became one of my most valued mentors.
Barbara's drag racing career was on 2 wheels. She won 2 AMA drag bike national championships. Then she made a career decision to move to stock cars. After graduating from Buck Baker's driving school, she made her first super speedway start last Sunday. Unfortunately, 10 laps into the Georgia 500, her engine blew.
It was pretty exciting, though, because what happened is the car came around sideways, which is just what we were taught in Buck Baker's school. It gets sideways, and then you're taught a certain correction that brings the car around so it's controllable. So, you know, I was able to control my first spin, and I think that took some driving. I'm proud of that. But as far as not being able to finish the race, I should be out there in one of these cars behind me right now. To say that I'm sorely disappointed would be an understatement.
Despite that debut disappointment, Barbara Young says she'll be back. And what is she trying to prove?
I don't feel I have anything to prove whatsoever. What Barbara Young is doing out here is what Barbara Young wants to do, regardless of what other people want me to do or what they expect me to do. So I run because I like the speed. I like the feeling of competing. I love motorsports, you know, the sound of the engine, the power involved, being in control of that. That's why I'm out here.
Well, Freddie Spencer does it again, and Don Prudhomme does it best. Those stories and more right after this. Second week in a row, Freddie Spencer has swept 250 and 500cc Grand Prix motorcycle races. Spencer, riding the Rothman-sponsored factory Honda, has a commanding lead in both championships following Sunday's Austrian Grand Prix. American Mike Baldwin was clobbered from behind on the start of the 500cc race, but came back to finish 7th. Spencer appeared en route to a runaway 500cc victory when the weather intervened. A downpour red flagged the race for over an hour, and on the restart, defending world champ #1, Eddie Lawson of California, led all the way. But the winner was determined by total time from both legs, and on the last lap, Lawson was held up momentarily by Spencer's teammate, Takazumi Katayama. Eddie took the checkers, but lost to Freddie by 3/100ths of a second. Spencer now leads Lawson by 10 points in the standings. In the 250cc race, Spencer passed Germany's Anton Mang late in the race and pulled away to a 5-second margin of victory. His 250cc lead now 9 points, and in 36 years of Grand Prix history, no rider has ever won 250 and 500 titles in the same year. I think it's time we gave the U.S. Air Force Reserve Wrangler Behind the Scenes Award to Irv Kanemoto. He builds the bikes that carry Freddie to victory, and Irv's in the running for a Honda Sabre 700 motorcycle that goes to our year-end Behind the Scenes Award winner.
Now let's take you to a brand new speedway bike track in Carlsbad, California. Some of the guys don't quite have the hang of Ricky Salvino's immaculate little oval, which is providing the Southern California stars with a great place to race, though some of them probably think more highly of the place than others. When you make a mistake in speedway, there's often somebody around to make it even worse. Case in point. And finally, the guy who fell off not once, but twice. All those guys are fine, so let's go to the final and look at the action. Alan Crazy Christian grabs the lead in turn 1. He's looking for his 4th win on this track, so you can be pretty sure that he likes the place. Big challenge coming from Kelly Moran, doing some one-wheel business on the backstretch. He's the national champion. But the man who almost upset Christian is Steve Lucero in black. A little bobble right there cost him the race by just a couple of inches. I'd say the fans at Carlsbad are definitely getting their money's worth.
And we go back to 4 wheels now as Valvoline presents another page from Ken Squire's scrapbook.
Hello, everybody. Now, another great moment in motorsports. April 28, 1968, Monza, Italy. The battle for the World Sports Car Championship had become a struggle between the 4-year-old Fords, owned by Englishman John Wyer, and the powerful Porsche factory team. At the Monza 1,000 kilometers, the 2-car Wyer strategy was simple. Send out young Jackie Ickx, car 39, with half-empty fuel tanks, hoping to wear out the 3-car Porsche team with a blistering pace. The Porsches took the bait, and on lap 18, one dropped out with a broken clutch. A second Porsche soon followed with a cracked exhaust. As the car driven hard by Ickx dropped back, the second Wyer team Ford, with David Hobbs at the wheel, passed the lone remaining Porsche and held on to win. Great driving and brilliant strategy spelled victory at Monza in 1968. I'm Ken Squire. Join me next week for another great moment in motorsports.
And speaking of history, Don Prudhomme made some this weekend at Bristol, Tennessee. On Sunday, he ran the fastest quarter mile in drag racing history. Now we begin with Carlton Phillips' spectacular smash-up in this exhibition run. After treatment for a couple of cracked ribs, he was released from the hospital. IHRA point leader Billy Irving, driving the family sedan, challenged by the sport's biggest surprise. That's Bruce Allen at the wheel of the late Lee Shepard's Camaro. In the final, Ewing in the left lane, red lighted, settled for second place. Allen cruised to his first national title in 7.54 seconds, 182 miles an hour. But the star of this show, definitely Prudhomme. The Snake made 3 straight funny car elimination passes over 260 miles an hour. Right here, round 1, he beats John Pott and runs 266.27. There you see it, a new record and the fastest run in drag racing history. But in the finals, racing Dale Puldy's new Buick Regal, the Snake was snake bit. Broken fuel line forces Prudhomme to shut down early. Puldy couldn't get his car into high gear, but a sub-200 run was good enough to win. Now, that final round loss was a disappointment, but Sunday will be remembered as the day of the Snake. for turning the fastest quarter mile in drag racing history and moving the funny cars past the top fuel machines in the realm of top speed. Don Prudhomme is our champion spark plug racer of the week. And on that highly successful note, we've got to run. I'm Dave Despain. Jerry Garrett reports next week on the Baja 500 off-road race, and Bob Varsha will tell us all about the big IMSA weekend at Mid-Ohio.
I'm Jim Roller. We'll have stock cars from Pocono, Pennsylvania, unlimited hydroplanes, and a demo derby for combines. You won't want to miss that next Saturday at this same time.
Promotional consideration and production fee paid by... MotorWeek Illustrated was brought to you by Dodge, makers of Ram Tough Dodge trucks, and by Dodge cars that will revolutionize your perspective of the road. We are Dodge, an American revolution.